7 o'clock, I'll call the City Council meeting to order. Will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Before we begin, I should mention that Councilor Matthews and Mayor Benetti are joining us virtually tonight. Council, if it's okay, before the public comments, I believe we have some people from the American Legion that would like to do a presentation.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Owens, and I live at 2249 Commercial in North Bend. I'm the finance officer for the American Legion Barrie Post 34 and serve on the national level as the National Executive Committeeman. With me tonight is Barrie Post 34 Commander Eric Stallings, right there. Sergeant at Arms Luke Colkhurst, which happens to have some ties to Coos Bay. His uncle, Corky Colkhurst, used to be the police chief of Coos Bay. And member John Trapp, John Trapp. The American Legion has been in the Bay Area since 1919 and have been a long history serving our community through Boys State, American Legion Baseball, Boy Scouts, and our oratorical contest. Since our inception, we live by four pillars: Americanism, children and youth, veterans and rehabilitation, and national security. At Veterans, we all took an oath to defend our great nation. Just like our police and firefighters, they also took an oath to protect our community. We have seen over the past few years that how the polarization of negative news has subjected men and women who each day put their lives on the line to protect and serve our communities. The American Legion has been honoring our police officers and firefighters each year at our national convention. We're here tonight to honor our police and firemen by presenting challenge coins that we recently created through our Oregon American Legion Foundation. It is a small token for the work they do day in and day out. We hope at a later date to present coins to everyone that works in our great city. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to give honor to our local heroes. So if those, Councilman, if we could have the police chief and the fire chief to come forward. Eric, Again, we'd like to, like I said, I talked to the police chief and the fire chief. We will give every employee that works for the city of Coos Bay, for the fire and police, we'll give them a coin. It means so much to us, and after talk to Roger, it means a lot to them that people recognize their service that they do every day, and we thank you for what you do, and no matter what people say, the American Legion is always behind the police and the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are very proud of our police and fire department, and it's great for them to get this recognition. Next item on the agenda is public comments. If anybody has a public comment for an item that is not on the agenda, please come forward now. It doesn't look like we have any online either, so I'll move on to item number 3, the consent calendar.
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is appeal of business license denial.
Councilors, Mayor. Little staff background on this action item. Try to keep it short. There's quite a bit of information in your agenda packet. But Suzanne Wirt applied for a business license for a nail salon in the basement of a residential home over on 8th Street. This would be a home occupation business license application. Under the land use perspective, it did comply with residential zoning in the land use component. The next step in that process is the application is routed to additional city staff from each department and each division to review the application. And during that review, as the building official and the fire marshal, I had some concerns with the application, specifically for the activity of a nail salon. Nail salon activity is actually an activity that is specifically called out in our Oregon Mechanical Code as a hazardous activity and has some very specific ventilation requirements to deal with the hazards associated with that. And the challenge with that application is that those are spelled out in the Commercial Mechanical Code. There are no provisions for the ventilation necessary to do this in a residential application. And those commercial requirements would apply whether there was one station or multiple stations. So it is not relevant to the size of the activity itself. And so those raised some concerns for me as we read that application. And additionally, the fact that it was in the basement of a residential structure. From a firefighting and fire hazard perspective, basements are traditionally more difficult from a response standpoint. So in reviewing that and looking at potential alternatives, I engaged staff in a conversation around that. And really, in order to apply that Commercial Mechanical Code ventilation piece, it would have required a full change of use to a commercial application, and all commercial codes apply, which would then take it out of the category of a home occupation and therefore not allowed in that residential zone. So unfortunately, there was no way to get to a yes answer, and based on those concerns, I did recommend denial of the business license. I would like to acknowledge that there was some background information that happened between the applicant and the city prior to that formal review in which it crossed my desk. I believe Ms. Wirt came in back in July and discussed her proposal with our former building inspector. And it's unfortunately, because he is a former employee, we don't have the full picture from his side of the conversation in terms of how much detail there was in understanding that this potentially was in a residential structure. I do know that that inspector was very well versed in the ventilation requirements, as we had just had staff conversation about it for a commercial application at Coos Bay Village. So we had just discussed the specificity of this particular activity. So it's my understanding that based on the applicant's conversation with that building inspector, that they went forth and hired a mechanical contractor to install a ventilation system. The city then received a phone call from that ventilation contractor asking about permitting requirements, and this was a commercial system. They just put it in a house. How do they permit that? And our understanding is that the system was installed without a benefit of a permit. If it would have come in for a permit, that would have been another flagging activity that would have caused it to come to my desk for review sooner in the process. So there was some delay in that communication and work that happened that we were not aware of. And so there was a significant amount of frustration on the applicant's part in getting that information and moving forward ultimately to receive a denial based on those fire and life safety concerns. So I acknowledge that frustration and how that process transpired, but I still do maintain that for the fire and life safety concern provisions, I don't believe it's an appropriate activity for a home occupation.
Thank you, Amy. Council, do you have any questions for Amy before I open it up for the public?
I had a question related to the contractor. They called after the fact asking about the commercial permits and what would be needed for what they just installed, would that normally have been something a contractor should have called ahead of time before they
Correct.
built it?
Absolutely. This contractor should have known better. They do work with the city on a regular basis and should have known that that required a permit prior to installation.
So there's a contractor issue in this as well then, probably, presumably.
Correct, which typically would be addressed through our code enforcement for work done without a permit.
Okay, are we doing anything with them?
We have not pursued that avenue pending outcome of the decision this evening.
Okay,
Just one note on that, when we do take that action, unfortunately, it's not the contractor that bears the brunt of that. The
Yeah.
responsibility is on the property owner.
gotcha.
Counselor Matthews, did you have a question?
No, you pretty much nailed it. That I was wondering the contractor's position on this, and that seems to be part of the process as well. I realized there was definitely some failings that happen in terms of communication or misunderstandings, and this is extremely unfortunate. You know, setting up businesses myself, I've dealt with this permitting process, and it can be hard to navigate and frustrating for sure. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're protecting the public safety and property and just doing the best we can. So I don't have any further questions at the moment, but interested to hear what everybody else thinks and see if we have anything that comes up.
I probably should have asked, is the contractor here tonight, or am I talking about somebody not in the room?
I don't believe we have a representative from the contractor here.
Well, that's unfortunate.
So,
Right.
so just for clarification, this came to your attention when the process was initiated by the contractor to attempt to get it permitted?
Negative. It came to my attention during the business license review process. So once the there were the conversations that happened at the counter and with the contractor prior to formal application for the business license. It's during the business license review process that it comes to my desk for review, as well as many other staff members. And it was during that, and as I was digging into that further, I was made aware of other conversations that had happened around the project. And it was right around that same time that our office manager was like, hey, I think this might be related. We got a call from this contractor asking how to permit this. So those kind of all happened in the same
Okay, so
timeframe.
it was a subsequent conversation that happened
Correct.
following the initial action on the business license
Yes.
by the contractor. So they did attempt to, at some point, remedy that?
Correct. Well, our understanding is that the work had been done, and then they were calling, asking how to permit it, knowing that even the contractor had some confusion that this was a commercial product that they installed. They were installing it in a home, and they're like, how do we permit this? And so we also informed the contractor that we wouldn't have permitted it based on this situation. And they're like, well, it's already in.
So just one more time, the contractor installed it and then called you and asked how we permitted it, and the process is to get a permit and then to install, correct?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
But the initial misstep probably was a miscommunication between our staff
Correct. There
and the person who was attempting to get licensed. And I'm sorry, my computer's out, so I have a very small screen to look at. Who has, by her steps that she included with the packet of all of the things that she really tried to get it ahead of this and make sure she was following.
Correct.
The procedure
And
correctly.
yes, absolutely acknowledge that there was some miscommunication and misinformation early in the process in July. When she first came in and inquired, spoke to our former building inspector, got information about this ventilation system, and then went away. At that point, there was no application, no other information to go on. And then when she returned to the city, all of that had transpired. The work had been done, she had contacted the contractor, it was not permitted, the work was done. And now there were questions and concerns, and she would call for updates, and we would say, we're still working on it. We did have a significant amount of staff conversation to try to figure out if there was a solution. And I said I engaged planning in that conversation, and then brought my concerns to Chief Anderson and Director Hostley as we discussed that before we formally made the decision to deny.
Any other questions? I have one. Just to clarify, in the business code, it says the license shall not be granted if B, the license activity or device would endanger property or the public's health and safety. That's where this is getting denied, is that correct?
Correct. That is the provision in which I recommended denial.
Thank you. So we have some Stacy Leap wanted to speak.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Stacy Leap. I live on Brights Mill Road in Coos Bay. So she was able to give you some backstory for the business license. Totally understand how things have transpired and kind of gotten mixed up in the process along the way for her. From what I understand, the applicant or the appellant at this point had requested some information to do her business license, to have her nail salon for herself in her home. At that time, she was trying to attempt to make the correct steps to obtain a business license so that she could move home to be closer to her son. So at that time, it appears she was given a list of information for a nail salon with the contractor in question, their name on it. So yes, she contacted them. She asked them, what would be appropriate for a nail salon, which is what she purchased and they installed. I understand that at some point it potentially has to, to be disconnected, permits being done, all those kinds of things, if that was to be an option for her to move forward. In researching the guidelines that she would have to abide by for a nail salon when it comes to hazardous stuff to keep her, the community, her house, and everything safe, they're pretty strict, just for her own nail license through OHLA, right? Yes, okay. In it, it has extreme requirements for monomer, for acetone, for alcohol, all those types of things. They have to be of a certain size, they have to be stored a certain way to ensure we don't have flammable things around non-flammable things around a heater or those types of things. They inspect those all the time. They talk about what type of ventilation systems you have to have, which by reading what they give you for requirements, what she installed exceeds that. Also in reading some of, as she said, the home occupation stuff, it would meet, in my view, the requirements for a home occupation. I think there's some guidance that she could have probably gotten before she moved forward in purchasing it, that it could have potentially been a commercial more of a thing, then we all wouldn't be here, unfortunately. So we're trying to accomplish what she's needing, but yet still meet the necessary requirements for hazardous stuff and keeping her and everybody else safe at the same time. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Stacy.
Do you have any questions for me?
Does anybody have any questions for Stacy? Thank you.
Thanks.
Did anyone from the Wirt family want to speak tonight?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Wirt. I live on South 8th Street, and I was applying for the business license. When I first went in on July 21st, I handed them my application that even stated it's in a basement. And I was handed my application back and told to call Sean from RHR Heating because, sorry to name drop him, but he's the one who has already done other salons in the city since the new ordinance of having ventilation, and he would lead me in the right direction. And that's what I did. It took about 6 weeks to get a quote and to order the device. And then you obviously heard when they tried to submit for the application, there was some confusion for the building permit, and that I apparently hadn't turned in my business application yet, and that's why they were confused. When I tried to turn it in July, I got it handed back. And so I was just a lot of not understanding things, and then it's just kind of gone spiraling since. And one thing the fire marshal, Amy, said was there's no firewall. It's a concrete basement, and there's one dividing wall. It's not that hard to just make that a firewall. It's certain sheetrock. I've already invested so much. I would do it more to be safe. And there's outdoor access to the basement, parking. It's just, I'm a single entity shop, and I'm just really confused because a lot of people have salons in their home. And so I don't understand how it's such a fire hazard, because I've never in my 14 years of doing it had a fire happen or a salon catch on fire. And I'm on several pages, and you just don't hear about salons catching on fire. That's because you have to have fire retardant trash cans. You have to put everything in metal. Like, there's certain safety guidelines that I have to have. And the Oregon Health Licensing Office comes into my business almost yearly to make sure that I'm obeying all the rules and safety concerns. And fire isn't one thing. And so I think if these things would have been addressed the first time when I came in July, and I would have not been misled, I don't think we would be here today. So, yeah. Any questions? I don't know.
Can you elaborate on that? We wouldn't be here today, so if you had known this ahead of time, you wouldn't have gone forward, or you?
Exactly.
Okay.
But I understand Bruce doesn't work for you guys anymore, but it's not my fault. He completely gave me all the wrong information. He's the one who told me to specifically call Sean, and he handed me the paperwork with the male ventilation restrictions from a black binder in the office that the office manager made me copies of. So from the get-go, everyone's known it was in a basement. And I was trying to do the right thing. And I've spent thousands of dollars doing this just to be told no. Like, I'm a single mom. I had to save up a lot of money to get that money, you know? And now it's just wasted. And there's a hole in my ceiling and the floor joists, and the exhaust pipe is 10 foot from all windows and doors because that's part of the code. How would we know that if they weren't in communication with each other? So now I have an exhaust pipe out of my house and a hole in the ceiling and a $2,000 ventilation system that is just hanging out. So I'm sorry for my frustration. I apologize.
So your, the cost of the ventilation system was $2,000, is that correct? And that's in terms of everything that you've put forth in this project?
No, I'm actually at $3,000.
$3,000,
With
okay.
paint, a new door, trim, all the things to make it a beautiful salon, because I was under the impression if I just got the ventilation system, that's all I would need to do,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
Is that an allowable use, commercial type use in a is that area of the city, are you allowed to have a commercial venture in a?
Yes, or no, it is not. It is a residential zone, so once we fully go into a change of use to a commercial occupancy, it would not be allowed in that zone.
But would it, a mixed use like that with a home and a commercial venture in that property, would that have been allowed?
No. So in order to fully comply, as she's saying, to do a firewall or those other components beyond the commercial mechanical system, it would do a change of use to make the occupation a commercial occupation, which would not be allowed by land use in that zone.
Okay, I understand for a salon, but if I wanted to cut hair in there, could I do that?
Potentially, yes. If it stayed in the category of a home occupation, in order for this occupation to comply, it would no longer meet the definition of a home occupation.
I don't understand that. How
That was
can-
specifically state code that dictated that and preempted city code, correct?
Correct. It would be, it's a commercial code application, so in order to apply those provisions of the ventilation that we're talking about, that's a commercial standard. We would then have to apply the commercial building code as well. It's now a change of use to a commercial business, not a home occupation, which stays residential in nature and does not undergo a change of
And
use.
circling back, that's as required by the state.
Correct.
Is that something new, or has this been in place for a long time?
The change of use component and all or nothing has been in place for quite some time.
Are there any exceptions to rules?
In this case, there's not.
Can we not do a conditional use permit?
Unfortunately, I speak building and fire and very little planning.
That's fair.
What if I just don't offer acrylic nails anymore, and then that takes out the monomer and the chemicals?
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure.
I said, what if I just don't do acrylic nails anymore and stick to shellac manicures and pedicures that don't involve any chemicals?
Amy, do you have an answer to that?
We would have to see that proposal and honestly do a review on it. That's not something I'm prepared to answer on short notice without a full proposal of what that scope of occupation would be.
That's my proposal. I would just do shellac manicures.
Yeah, what she's
Yes, to do
saying, she doesn't
research.
want,
Yeah.
there's already been some misinformation communicated by our staff, so she wants to make sure if she gives you an answer, she doesn't have to double back around. She wants to make sure whatever she's telling you, I understand, she just wants to go look at the code, make sure that she gives you the correct answer. I think the questions are, we know you've made a significant investment, we know we have some culpability in what happened on our end, and we're trying to figure out something, because you have made an investment, not just in your business, but in our community, and we understand.
I couldn't agree more with Stephanie. We do have some culpability, is what it sounds like, so I think we need to, maybe the first step is to do some research, but I think we owe something to the citizen for the investment that she made.
Absolutely. Mayor, Council Matthews, do you have any questions?
Well, I just think that we need to look into this and see how we can rectify this if possible. Having Amy come back after Mrs. Wirt wants to apply for whatever it is there a change of use that can be done? I don't know. You know, that's something else that Drew brought up. I think we need to look into it, because she's caught in a tough predicament. If she meets the code, then all of a sudden she has to change and become a commercial area. So well, the way it's stated right now, she's stuck. There's no way to rectify this for her to get a business. So I think we need to look into all aspects and see how we can help rectify this. And the other thing, I guess I'm questioning, maybe Jim or Amy or someone, Bruce is not able to be spoken to about this and find out what has transpired. It would be nice to get some clarification. Obviously, from what we have seen in her appeal, it seems like there was some misrepresentation on his part and gave her a direction to go that was not accurate. So anyway.
I can take that, Mr. Mayor. I didn't feel it was actually necessary to talk to Bruce, because I absolutely agree that he probably provided misinformation and put us on this course. Even if he confirmed that, it still is misinformation, and it doesn't change the outcome of where we are. So it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the review. The information is misinformation, and whether he said it or it was misinterpreted, that's the path that Ms. Wirt went down. Understand that, and acknowledge that frustration and information, but it doesn't change the issue around the change of use and the commercial application in the zone at hand.
But Amy, I understand that, but the point is that we cannot, as a city, and give misinformation and expect the citizens, leave them in a position like this. I mean, it's just, we just can't do that. I mean, we have to be more clear on where we direct people. I mean, this was a building inspector that was giving some advice. And so it continued on. I know that she should have gotten the permit probably first and make sure she got approved. I understand that. But she wasn't told that either. So I think that's another thing. I think unless that piece of paper that was given to her at the counter, and I don't know what that piece of paper said, that whoever gave her the piece. But I think we have to find a way to make sure this doesn't happen, because it really comes across bad for our citizens and puts them in a real bad situation.
I absolutely agree, Mr. Mayor, and we have taken steps internally to prevent this from happening again. We have changed our process in how we route home occupations, and that information to catch the review at a much sooner point in the process. So we are actively working amongst the divisions in the department to rectify the situation and prevent it from happening again.
So do you have a suggestion how we can fix this or correct it?
Exploring Councilor Farmer's idea around a conditional use, that would require a conversation with planning, but short of that, and that's where I understand the frustration, is that I do not have a code path forward in this particular situation.
I misunderstood. I thought there was a conversation of not doing acrylic nails, but doing shellac. What was the other type of
And
nail?
just pedicures.
And just pedicures.
Correct. That would be a reapplication and a re-review of a new proposal that I'm absolutely happy to do. But for the original application that we received, I did not have a path forward.
Sure. So if she wants to help rectify this, if she wants to fill out a new application, and then can you be her only point person and walk her
Absolutely.
through this entire experience?
Absolutely. If we come to a place where we can keep the activity solely within the scope of a home occupation, then that's a potential path forward. And I can certainly, willing to meet with you at some point here in the next few days and discuss exactly the new scope, essentially, of what you're requesting to do, and we can do a re-review on that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to maybe waive any additional fees for a new application?
I certainly think we could accommodate that.
And can we also check into the requirements for the ventilation, the type of ventilation that she would have to put in if she did the lesser non-acrylics versus if it's going to be the same system or not, or if it's the system that she had to put in for the full salon, if there's a difference in price on that, because I feel like we need to look at that as well.
Understood. And that would be a big component of that re-review of keeping it, again, within the residential scope to keep it in home occupation and not kicking it to the commercial ventilation standard.
Nicole, so it sounds like we have some opportunities to try to rectify this, but ultimately, what are the steps if we need to address the financial obligations? Will that come in front of this council again, or will you handle that amongst the city staff?
That's a great question, and I would suggest that
that's up to you guys to do. That is within probably all of our rights as far as coding and paying for an expense for the city, the threshold there. So, I mean, Amy could probably approve that even at her level. But if you had desire to see this back before you, to participate in that process, we certainly can do that as well.
I think that this applicant has waited long enough. Let's move forward so she can get to doing her business. And if there is something that you find is more extensive that was required to do the type that she was proceeding with originally, then maybe that needs to come back for this council so that we can discuss possible reimbursement.
Yes, we can absolutely.
Yeah, I would, I think, Amy, if you could also ask Ms. Wirt if she wants to do a change of use, maybe that's something she wants to do, maybe it's something she doesn't want to do. I'm not sure she wants to go through that process, but I think if you explain it to her and what is entailed, maybe she wants to go down that road, maybe she doesn't, but at least she has an option to make that determination. Or just move forward in changing the use that so she can occupy her facility at home.
I think we should probably, I mean, in an ideal world, move forward on both concurrently to look at if we can do a conditional use permit, but also in the interim, see if Ms. Wirt could do the step down services to mitigate time loss.
And that will not
Yeah, but
mitigate the success of your business? Will that have an effect on your business if you do not offer services for acrylic nails?
Yes and no.
But how long does it take for a conditional use? Jim, can someone answer that?
If, in this case, it's probably just a administrative exercise, so it would be just a matter of 3 to 5 weeks.
Well, good. Will that be an option that she can consider then at least? And so if she can be, that could be explained to her, that'd be great.
Jim, did you say 3 to 5 weeks? Okay. Is there a way to fast track this? Or is 3 to 5 weeks a fast tracked version of this?
If it's if there's a requirement for a public notice, that's
Okay.
what we have to account for.
Thank you.
So we have to come to a decision on this tonight, and then we're going to move forward with these other steps. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that that's what's before you tonight is the appeal of staff's decision at this point.
Well,
Yeah, so Nicole, do I understand correctly that we have to accept this application, I mean, the denial, or we have to reverse the denial? Is that correct?
So I believe the decision before you tonight is to either accept where we stand with the denial or accept the appeal.
Can we,
It can't just be in process.
we have to make, so we can go ahead and make a motion one way or the other, but also stipulate that we'll move forward with the other. So, I mean,
Have at it, Stephanie.
it's, huh?
Have at it, Stephanie. That's a hard motion.
Well, it's tough because we have to follow the rules, and sometimes that's the hard decisions that we get to make when we're up here. But unfortunately, I believe that staff has found that we can't approve this as is.
I think
So-
state law dictates that we have to uphold it until a alternative option is worked out with staff and Ms. Wirt.
So I think my motion is then to approve the staff recommendation for denial of the license. And how did you just state that? Because I need that to be part of my motion.
To uphold the denial as decided by the staff based on state laws, and direct staff to work with Ms. Wirt on conditional use permit assistance, examination of whether or not she would be able to operate her business if she went down to shellacking and the other things that I don't get myself.
Well, to investigate a conditional use permit or have the applicant reapply with a different,
I think you're gonna
Scope
have her
of
reapply, because if
business.
you deny this, you deny it. And those other factors that we're talking about would be a separate thing that she could investigate and determine whether to go that way. And one of them being a change of use or to change her operation of business to meet the home business. So I think that that's separate. I mean, if you try to tie it into motion, I think that could be a problem. Nate can refer to this, I guess.
Yeah, I think I agree with the mayor. We probably need
Just
to
make it
deny
one.
and then,
Okay.
she can reapply, work with staff to see if
Okay.
there's the alternative, as council pointed out. And if not, you've talked about reimbursement. That's certainly an option that's available.
Okay, then I make a motion to approve the staff recommendation of denial on the appeal due to health and fire safety concerns.
Second?
So for discussion, I just want you to understand, Ms. Wirt, that Amy is willing to work with you to discuss a change of operation for your business that might work there, and also change of use, which would be another option for you to go through. As Jim, our Public Works Director, stated, might be 4 to 5 weeks, but at least those are some options for you. And I think that then, we want to find a way that you can put your business to work in some fashion. So that's what we're all trying to work towards. So I hope you understand that.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion.
And I'm sorry for what you've had to go through.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to deny the appeal. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just throw in there, if, Ms. Wirt, if the reapplication process does not seem to fit your design or desires for moving forward, then, discussion on the reimbursement can definitely happen at that point. So you have several different ways to go forward. And once again, I'm very sorry that this has been so complicated and misguided, but we hope that we can help you in some way, shape, or form, and to move forward from this and rectify your future plans or your past plans.
Thank you.
I just want to commend you for coming here. It's a brave thing to do, to challenge the process, and I commend you for that. And I think that we will hopefully come up with a resolution that works for all. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. And as we were told, we're going to improve some processes to make sure this doesn't happen again for others. So thank you for coming here tonight and doing this.
Thank you guys for your time.
I almost passed out the first time I spoke at the podium, so good work.
This is really rough.
Is there any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Word, I think it's obvious that the council is sympathetic to your situation, and I hope that you have a much better experience working with the city moving forward.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the city manager's report, which must be an assistant manager, city manager's report.
That's correct. I get the option of sharing a couple things with you guys tonight. We've probably discussed already previously that we underwent a website redesign. We unveiled that actually on the 24th, so we've been live for a little over a week. We had a couple glitches, but we've got those resolved. We also, in this process, applied to change from a coosbay.org to a coosbay.gov, which kind of fits more in line with what our services here are. That was approved and was applied. We'll be working with some additional things related to that transition, changing of emails, things like that. So we're truly falling under the .gov umbrella.
I assume that you're going to stick with the org for a while until people...
So what we've done is continue to purchase that URL address so that we can ensure that we maintain rights so someone else doesn't grab that from us and use it. We'll continue that for probably permanently. And then we do have a redirect in place. So if people are going to coosbay.org, it will redirect. And actually we had to move to coosbay.or .gov as recommended by the agency that approves these. Secondly, obviously of greater importance perhaps, is the audio in this space. We're working with several vendors. I think one of our members of the council who's gave us another option, and then I also received an option from a member of the public at the last meeting to reach out to someone locally who handles audio. So we've got 3 different companies kind of working with us. 2 of them have toured our facility, and they're working on their quotes right now. So we'll hopefully get something in the next couple weeks as far as some costs and options. As far as projects happening around town, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we do have some progress made on the Washed Ashore exhibit. That's going to be there at the Preway. When I went by earlier, they did have the poles up, so we're close to having fencing when I went by. We did, I think, send you guys an email earlier today letting you know that the work on the Gary's automotive site out in Empire was going to start today. Unfortunately, that might have been a little bit early because things changed. The contractor who's handling that is also doing the work on Newmark. Their permit was approved on the Newmark side, and so they went today and worked on that versus worked at the Gary's automotive site. So we are delayed a little bit with that, but that progress, we'll start seeing that building coming down. We also have the boat ramp floats replacement. We believe that we have the floats delivered. We believe that they will be installed in Empire in the next couple weeks. Hopefully the east side location by the end of the month. And then we are making progress on the homes on Broadway, doing some due diligence there, making sure that there are not any hazardous materials. We've been informed there are some, so we will have some abatement to do there. Working with some firms to do that, as well as we have a couple of firms who have responded as far as a cost to take the buildings down. So
Did we get a timeline on that, or is it too soon to tell?
it is a little bit early because we are kind of waiting on that abatement issue to kind of see what it would take to overcome the hazardous materials.
Thank you.
So, and that's what I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Nicole. Next item is council comments. Drew?
Nothing tonight.
Lucinda?
I just wanted to commend the staff for the flag ceremony, recognizing the 3 federally recognized tribes. It was raining, and I think there was a last-minute change of location, and everything was really beautiful. And so I just wanted to commend the staff for that. I spoke to members of both 2 of the tribal councils, and they were very pleased with the work that this council is doing. And I think we're inspired to continue to collaborate even more often to make sure that we're doing the good work of representing the community. With that said, I've spent a lot of time on that boardwalk, and I've noticed some mismatched garbage cans and just how we're presenting ourselves. I noticed some of the planter boxes, like one has like a piece of wood sticking out of it, and there's really no continuity. That seems like a really, really simple fix of garbage cans that look the same, plants that have some, continuity to them, and they look the same. And so I know that we're doing some work potentially for grants, but that just seems like super, super low-hanging fruit. And so I'm hoping that we can address that along the boardwalk sooner versus later.
I would just add real quick, we are looking at some different garbage can options, and we're awaiting, we believe that the Big Belly option is probably a good idea for the boardwalk. So that may resolve that a little bit further than probably what you'd like, but we can definitely look at the flower boxes.
Great, and I was hoping perhaps in one of our future work sessions, I know we've talked about it informally, of really what the next steps are for improvement on that boardwalk. I know that's a long-range plan, but I think that if we just, one bite at a time, we can address it. So again, thanks to the staff for all their work. I also wanted to ask, we have been talking about a master plan for Empire, so I wanted to know where we were at in that process.
So we actually talked a little bit about that today. We've got a couple of staff members. I'm sure you know, we just have a new planning administrator, and she's been working with also our deputy public works director. We had some discussions around developing a timeline and an RFP to get out there, to get interested parties in there, and at that point, we'd want to pull in the folks who have been designated from this group to participate in that process, so we can get a good scope and all of that. So it is in works.
Okay.
I'd expect something from us, in the next month or so to kind of get the timeline out to you.
Okay. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the members of the American Legion. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for acknowledging the staff. And so it means a lot that you came here today, and we appreciate all that you do, not only for this community, but for the state and our great country. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Stephanie?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Just thought I'd report on the Special Olympics event that I attended this weekend. On behalf of the mayor and Lucinda, I rolled the first ball of that regional tournament, and I wanted to let you know that I did not bowl a strike. I bowled a gutter ball. But fortunately, everyone was gracious, and Mayor Engelke and I from North Bend, Mayor Engelke from North Bend and I rolled together. We both rolled gutter balls almost at the same time they went in the gutter. I thought she was a shoo-in because she's much more athletic than I am. But they let us roll a second, and we knocked over some pins. So, but what a wonderful event. They are trying to restart that in this community again. It had happened there for years, and fantastic group of people there. So kind. I was so nervous, but they were so kind. And if you ever want to feel good walking away from something, go visit one of those Special Olympic events. Just wonderful people. I also wanted to remind everyone that Wine Walk is Friday, and it is happening rain or shine. So come on out, and when you do that, you will support the Coos Bay Downtown Association this month. So all of the proceeds will go into that foundation to do good work downtown Coos Bay. And also wanted to mention, while I'm on the Coos Bay Downtown Association, that the holiday, I know it's hard to believe, but holiday open house is November 11th and 12th. That kicks off the holiday, so be sure when you shop, eat, or stop down in Coos Bay and spend your money that you save your receipts, because on Shop Small Saturday, you can turn those in and get a commemorative mug. I think they do a noggin along event, and Santa comes to visit. It's just a big weekend of events. So that kicks off the 11th and 12th downtown Coos Bay, and if you need more information, just visit their website, coosbaydowntown.org.
Thank you, Stephanie. Sarah?
Yeah, thanks. I want to congratulate all of the people who made the Empty Bowls event possible that happened at the Culinary Institute this weekend. The line was out in the parking lot and around, and this event, of course, supports South Coast Food Share and people who are food insecure in our community. And I can't even put a number on the number of countless volunteer hours that happened to make this event possible, and just a really incredible community event, and encourage everyone to go in the future. You get a bowl, you always remember the event. It's just a really special one. And then to piggyback off of what Councilor Kilmer and Councilor DeNova were saying about the boardwalk and the Coos Bay Downtown Association, I recently had the privilege of touring around the state and took pictures of wayfinding signs all over the place, and found some cool ones that I hope that we can examine, because ours needs some work. And I did send some pictures to Roger while I was out, so I hope that we can really see some movement from the Coos Bay Downtown Association on those wayfinding signs. And then I also want to thank the American Legion. And not only do you all serve in that role, but you also serve on various other community roles, from the North Bend Housing Authority to Rotary to Elks to probably 75 other things that I won't list. And so appreciate you for your service and what you do in our community.
Thank you, Sarah. Carmen?
Wow, everybody's got a lot of great comments today. I just want to express my gratitude as well to the city staff and the mayor and this council for working together to make the flag ceremony a great event. And it was I was proud to be there, and I'm really looking forward to working with the tribes in a much closer relationship in the future. And any way that I can help, I'd like to be a part of that, reaching out and a part of that work. Other than that, I was at the Empty Bowls event as well. My wife helps put that on, and they probably raised close to $20,000 this year. So cheers to the community for pulling that together, from all the volunteers who were making bowls and the businesses who were providing soup and everybody who attended. It was a spectacular event, and I concur. You should definitely make it next time. If it usually happens every other year, so go check that out. And just really proud of the community for stepping up and supporting each other and those in need. So other than that, I just want to say I hope everybody had a happy and safe Halloween, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Carmen. Mayor? You're muted.
We're going out for, Nicole, we're going out for an RFQ or an RFP for the master plan. I thought it was going to be an RFQ.
You're correct. I misquoted.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I didn't know if we're going to be more of a process. I also want to thank the staff for the flag ceremony. It was an honor to participate in that, and to honor the 3 tribes and get the flags up there and handle it that way. And I also want to thank Carmen and Lucinda for both being there. So that's about. Oh, how'd the trick and treating go downtown, Stephanie, for the Downtown Association? Looked like there's quite a few from my view, but I don't know.
Yeah, they were very busy, and so much happiness. There's a few photos that are up on the Coos Bay Downtown Association page, so you can go and check it out. I can't believe some of the costumes. They're amazing. It sure beats the old plastic mask we used to put over our face with the old thing that we tied around our necks. Remember that, Rob, when we go trick-or-treating together?
And I also just want to take the time to thank the American Legion for all they do. And I think everyone else covered everything else, so that was great. I'll make it short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight, so there being no further business, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thank you.